Hello, everyone. Welcome to Connections with Shawnta Jackson. Connections is our opportunities as excuse me. Connections is our opportunity as professionals to connect and to make the most out of our professional network and to advance our careers and also to create business opportunities for ourselves. And I like to bring on guests who not only can showcase their skills and their expertise, but also I bring on guests who inform and inspire. You are watching live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and these are unscripted, unedited chats. And so like I said, we are streaming live, and please do enter your questions and comments in the chat box. And at this time, I will bring on my next guest. Her name is Angel V. Shannon. She is a personal development keynote speaker, and also Angel is a certified nurse practitioner, and she has a clinical practice and a private coaching practice that she'll tell us about. And again, enter your questions and comments in the chat box, and I appreciate you for joining today, and I hope that this is a robust conversation that you can definitely benefit from. Thank you so much. Hi, Angel. How are you today?
Shawnta, hello there. So wonderful to see you.
Yes, very nice to see you too. It's been a few years. I think the last time we saw each other in person was in 2017. And that was when I took the leap of faith and left my full-time position at the University of Maryland School of Public Health. And at that time, how we connected for about 4 years. You served on the Maryland Community Research Advisory Board with the Center for Health Equity at the School of Public Health. Are you still involved?
I am not. I think I left shortly after the time that you left, maybe a few months. We lost one of our colleagues who was a dear friend of mine and also was a member of the board. So I kept active through him, and then after his untimely passing, I kind of lost my connection. But I do still get lots of the updates and know that they're still very active in the work that they're doing in Prince George's County and in the greater Maryland region.
Yes, and so you joined, as you mentioned, one of the other advisory board members invited you in. And at the time, I knew you only as a nurse practitioner. And of course, you had your own things going on. And so since then, tell us about just your career or your business growth as it relates to Seva.
Sure. So first off, let me just say thank you so much for inviting me to come on and chat with you. I am honored, always so deeply honored to have you as a colleague and a friend in my life. And it was a pleasure serving on the Community Research Advisory Board with you. Learned so much about public health, and it was exciting to be in that circle of professionals. And as you said, at the time I just launched my clinical practice. So it was just sort of an idea at the time. I was working in Columbia full-time in a very, very large practice, and just had the idea that what I wanted to do is deepen my work in the community, wanted to do house calls, and really, really wanted to serve the geriatric population. And having worked in critical care, ICU, trauma, home care, I knew that there was a large population of seniors that were going unserved. And so I launched my clinical practice initially just to serve that population and doing house calls, going out to see them where they were. And as you know, from your expertise and scholarship in public health, one of the desires we've had is to help our seniors age in place. So I was building upon that model of aging in place and bringing the care to seniors as opposed to having them come into the clinic or into the practice where we were. So that was the initial launch. And then from there grew into serving not just the seniors, but also their adult caregivers who were too desperately in the need of care. Because as you know, being a caregiver comes with its own amount of stress. balancing care of an elderly one while still working full time, caring for children, sandwich generation, all that kind of thing. So the practice just took off from there.
Okay, and thank you for that. You mentioned that you help mid to late career professionals clear brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me a little bit about that, because it's beyond brain fog, and it help excuse me, it's beyond brain fog. And you know what, I think today I'm a little nervous because I'm not in my home space. I'm at yes, I'm in Las Vegas, and I'm in the Hotcast room at Hot 702.5 FM at the radio station in Las Vegas here. And you know, I don't know. I don't know what it is over me.
Different energy. It's different energy. You know, every space has its own energy, its own flow, but good that you can take the show on the road.
Yes, definitely. And actually, that's how I design my business, and that's how I like to design my life as far as my lifestyle. So that I like the fact that I'm flexible and I can move around and I can work from anywhere in the world. And so you mentioned you help mid to late career professionals clear brain fog, also boost energy and lose stubborn weight. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Sure. So as I said, started out geriatric population, you know, realizing that every time you have an older adult client, particularly one who may have cognitive impairment, you don't just have that patient or that client, you also have the family that that person is part of. And what I realized is that there were many mid-career to late career professionals, sandwich generation, who were serving, you know, trying to meet the needs of their elderly adult parent and their young children to their own deficit, to their own self-care deficit. Lots of people in that space who would come in with, Angel, you know, I know you see my dad, but I'm wondering if you'd be willing to see me also. I don't know what it is. I'm terrified that I may have dementia, right? So it's all this cluster of symptoms, this, you know, I've got headaches. I'm always, you know, I can't think, I can't finish my sentences. And we live in the age of Google, where people Google everything. There's a lot of information out there. And without tapping into the clinical expertise, people would self-diagnose themselves with the worst thing. We always think it's the worst thing. And what I found, you know, quantitatively and qualitatively, is that most of the times these symptoms would cluster around burnout, right? So people weren't sleeping, skipping meals, you know, burning the midnight oil, working on the weekends. You do some labs, you find out there's a thyroid issue. You do some more labs, you find out that there are signs of oxidative stress. And so how can you reasonably care for an older adult if you're not caring for the adult child who's caring for that person? So it became, how can I serve this population to help them better serve the people that they are caring for? So that was an outgrowth of that. And as I said, and I think I should take a step back and say that burnout isn't just a little bit of stress. It isn't just, oh, I need to, you know, take a nap. You know, naps are great. And I'm all here for people who advocate for taking naps and days off and self-care. But burnout is a little bit more than that. And anyone who's ever been either burnt out or dangerously close to burnout knows that it is not just taking a day off. Exactly. I'm going to raise my hand because I've been there. And, you know, it's not just taking a couple of days off. And God knows, I wish all it took was getting my nails done and then I'm feeling better. If that was all it took, you know, that would be great. But it's more than that. You know, it's just a loss of your joie de vivre, you know, your sauce, your spice in life. It's the brain fog. It's the apathy, you know, just that feeling like there's nothing worth living for, you know.
So how do we address that? What are the first steps?
Absolutely. So very first step, you know, be honest about what you're experiencing. You know, first off is just self-awareness and saying, you know what, I'm not feeling like myself. I'm feeling, you know, because a lot of times we read things about just drive through, hustle and grind, dig in and whatnot. No, there's no digging in when you're burnt out or close to burnout. So first and foremost is to be honest. Talk to your clinical provider first and foremost. Have that conversation. Even give a call ahead of time. Ask if you can for an extended appointment, maybe a little bit longer than the average 10 to 15 minutes, because you're going to have to describe some symptoms and things like this. Tune into your own body wisdom. Most people, when they come into the practice, will be very vague. That first appointment is just my data gathering. But that's when I say to people, hey, let's check in a week from now. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep a log of exactly what you're feeling. Tell me how much sleep you're getting, not getting, things like this. And so when I've got that cluster of symptoms and what that person is experiencing, tells me right off the bat what's happening. Nowadays, people don't go for physicals anymore. People just go to the urgent care, or they'll go see the ENT for this or that. Go back. Let's get back to the days of having a good primary care provider so that you can get annual physicals, and that person knows what your norm is and what your norm is not. I'm not used to seeing you this way. You're looking really tired to me. And you start from there. You build this relationship with a primary care provider. It's so, so crucial. And it may sound old-fashioned, but no one at urgent care who sees you one day, someone else sees you another day, someone else, no one's going to know how to track that for you as an individual like a primary care person would know.
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. And then in your introduction, you also talked about lab work. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, in addition to being honest with yourself and tracking how you feel and tracking your sleep pattern, the way you eat and your level of physical activity, in addition to tracking that, I think, in my opinion, a good foundation, especially with COVID, a lot of folks, we missed our primary care appointments, but I think that's a good starting point for people to, I haven't been feeling my best. I haven't been doing my best, but this is a good foundation for me to just start from this point. And then that way, like you said, your oxygen levels.
Exactly.
And you can see if there are any other issues that you're having. So that way, first of all, you can take care of yourself for
exactly.
One. Then you can monitor your changes in your behavior. And then when you go back, you can kind of see, and it's like your progress and it's motivation for you. Okay, this is really working. And I have results to show that this is working.
Exactly. And thank you so much for that segue, because you're absolutely right. What goes into a good primary care relationship and what goes into a good primary care appointment, those labs are crucial. You can't manage what you don't measure or monitor, right? So it's managing, measuring, and monitoring. Those labs are absolutely crucial. And a good baseline set of labs, without giving any clinical advice here to folks who are watching, but just, a good baseline is always to check the labs that reflect every body system. So you want to be looking at that thyroid, especially for this population that I'm referring to, as we're getting older. Checking that thyroid, checking that cholesterol panel, having a look at, whether there's any anemia. I can't tell you the number of people who come to my practice with anxiety these days, especially women of childbearing age will come into my practice with, really severe symptoms of anxiety and come to find out that they're anemic, and so, correcting that anemia before we just start saying, hey, let me put you on an antidepressant or an anxiety medication. Getting those labs is so, so important. Checking the liver and kidneys, checking the A1C, which is an indicator of diabetes, as you know, fasting glucose. All of these kinds of labs are important as mile markers to see where in the body there may be oxidative stress. Where's your thyroid? How's your metabolism? Those are labs, you're absolutely right, that I do right off the bat. And then there's a step even further than that. In my clinical practice, I do something called functional medicine. So I look to see what your baseline is, but in these additional labs, I'm able to look at higher levels of oxidative stress. I'm able to look at how the body is doing something called methylation. Methylation has to do with B vitamin status. I'm able to look at nutrient markers because, as we know, a lot of food these days is processed. Even if you're eating organic, we don't know what kind of soil that the food is grown in, so it may be nutrient poor, right? So, and there are other labs that I do that reflect gut health. We know that the gut and the brain are intimately woven together; they go hand in hand. So, I do a lot of gut testing in my clinical practice as well to get a sense of what's happening in that gut. Got to clean that up as well. So I look at people as, my work is really founded in holism. We are whole people. We're not just the patient with the heart problem or the patient with the kidney problem. We are whole people living whole lives. So you've got to look at the whole person and treat the whole person from head to toe. So I do those standard labs, but then I take it a step further and look at, as I said, nutrient status, indicators, biomarkers of oxidative stress, gut health, even hormone status. As women enter those 30s, late 30s, early 40s, and especially in the 50s, when those hormones start to wind down, that's really important to look at. So I'm able to do that level of investigation.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And this is the direction of the show. Like I said, it's unscripted, unedited, and we just kind of go with the flow. And I think that this is very important, especially for those who are leaders within their organizations. And it makes me think about organizational health and wellness programming. And is that something, and so that you do? And what I'm looking to do now, the reason I'm asking you this is because I'm trying to make a connection with my audience for possible collaboration or even business opportunities for yourself. So do you work with employers or large organizations?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that. I really think it's time for us to redefine workplace wellness. For a long time, we thought about workplace wellness as having a gym, offering some yoga classes, having a gym, whatnot. But I think it's time to take that a step further and really think about the ways in which people are working, and look at the mindset, the culture of the institution or the organization, the business, and really start with shifting our mindset away from just working and doing into a mindset of being. How do we show up in the workplace? How do we show up in such a way that we bring our best self so that we can offer our best? And that starts, I really firmly believe that leadership sets the tone. And that's my work. My work is really centered around helping the leadership at every level to develop a culture that is rooted in mindfulness and self-compassion practice. And when I talk about self-compassion, I'm not talking about self-care. I'm talking about self-compassion, which sort of is woven around mindfulness, woven around seeing yourself in every employee, seeing yourself in every person, from the person who sweeps the floor to the person who's sitting in the C-suite, and really changing the culture to be more inclusive from the perspective of seeing yourself in every individual, and seeing the ability to create a more sustainable workforce, sustainable work habits, creating a healthy organization, because I feel like an organization is only healthy to the extent that the employees and the leadership are healthy. And so that's my work, is doing corporate retreats, workshops, seminars, and helping organizations at the foundational level to really examine workplace policies around health and well-being in a very practical and usable way.
Thank you for that. And so in addition to working with organizations and having workshops, as we mentioned in the introduction, for those of you who are watching, thank you so much. We are streaming live on both LinkedIn on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And you mentioned public health and the Community Research Advisory Board. And in addition to working with organizations, are you also open to working with public health entities, nonprofit organizations to do community programming?
Absolutely. And I think that's, those
Oh
are
no,
my
we
roots.
lost Angel.
Uh-oh. I can see you.
Okay, so I apologize for that, everyone. We are streaming live, and it happens. We had some technical difficulty. I'll bring Angel back on the screen. And Angel, if you can hear me. Okay, everyone.
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, perfect. So sorry about that. We had a few technical difficulties. We probably lost a few people, but that's okay. So my question to you is, in addition to working with corporations and in addition to working with organizations, are you open to also working with nonprofit organizations and public health entities to plan and strategize and implement various types of community planning for the target population that you serve?
Absolutely. My roots are in community health. Before I was in private practice, before I was a nurse practitioner, I did good old-fashioned house calls with the Visiting Nurses Association. And I have a strong connection to the community, strong belief that, a society is only as healthy as the communities that make up a society. So it really does have to start at the community level. And I'd absolutely be honored to partner with organizations, community association groups, even to talk about, indicators, as you and I both know from public health, social determinants of health, how, police brutality impacts people's health and well-being, creates stress, runs up the blood pressure. Next thing you know, you're in my office looking for, medication to deal with blood pressure issues. So absolutely, I'm very active in my own community association, and I'd be more than happy to partner with institutions or organizations, community-based organizations and nonprofits that are looking to create healthier healthier communities.
Okay, and that's good to know. And so when I see opportunities that present itself, so even though these are live chats, we are professionals and we're having literally a taped conversation, a live stream conversation, but it is peer to peer. And so this is beneficial with me also with cause engagement associates. And when there's opportunities that present itself, and when I have clients that have needs, then I know the professional network that I have.
Absolutely.
To be able to team together to collaborate or just to refer you over to them. So I really do appreciate this conversation. And I want to switch it up and ask you, do you have any questions for me?
I do. I'd love to know what you're up to these days, Shawnta. I follow you on LinkedIn. I'm always so super thrilled about, even when we work together with the Community Research Advisory Board, what I admire about you is that you are a connector. You are a really, really solid connector of your colleagues from all different backgrounds. And so I want to know how Cause Engagement is doing, what you're up to. I know you're in Vegas having some R&R, and happy belated birthday to your son.
Yeah,
I
thank
should
you.
say that. But what are you up to these days? What's exciting, and how can I support your work?
Well, Cause Engagement Associates, we have grown. As you know, I started my business part-time in 2015. I was working full-time and kind of doing cause engagement on the side. And in 2017, I made the big leap.
Mhm.
And since then, I've been 100% self-employed. And most of my clients are multi-year clients. And so in addition to doing community engagement and stakeholder engagement, we're also doing a lot of community needs assessments and evaluation work as well. And so I do have a team of consultants where I work with them on an as needed basis per project.
Mhm.
And so active clients that I have right now that I'm really excited about, and this is more so community engagement work. The People's Commission to Decriminalize Maryland, it's funded through OSI Foundation or OSI Baltimore. And so the People's Commission, they have different work groups. So there's drug policy, sex work, homelessness, and we have a new health disparities work group, and youth. And so what they're doing is they're looking at criminal code in the state of Maryland, and they're either looking to dismantle the code altogether or make some modifications to the code, and with that actively working with our elected officials, the state legislature in Maryland. And so my role is it's about 29 organizations or so. And so my role with Cause Engagement and my colleagues, we're on the project management team, the program management team, and we're making sure that everything is kind of rolling, a lot of behind the scenes. So a lot of kind of like ghost services.
Sure.
And also in Greater Riverdale, Kaiser Permanente has a multi-year place-based initiative, and one of their grantees is Maryland Nonprofits. And with Maryland Nonprofits, I've been working with them, and we have a cohort of nonprofit organizations in Greater Riverdale that we've built a relationship with, a needs assessment, some trust building, and based off of that, developed a program. So we have a capacity building cohort.
Nice.
And so in addition to working with the nonprofit organizations, we've also identified, and this is where more so Cause Engagement comes in, we've identified the leaders in the community, and we've developed a community coalition, Greater Riverdale Thrives. And so everyone who's, if you're interested to know more about Greater Riverdale Thrives, visit greaterriverdalethrives.org. And so just a lot of, again, community engagement
yes.
Yeah, they identify the issues. We have an economic empowerment work group. We have youth in schools. We have Latino and immigrant outreach. We have community beautification. And these are all issues that they identify. And of course, there was a process to help them to identify that. So that capacity building, that technical assistance to that coalition to make sure that they are sustainable. And so right now we have our strategic work plan for the coalition, and we're working with some fundraising consultants. So really a lot of capacity building.
I was just going to say a lot of.
Yeah, that's what I find myself doing a lot lately. Baltimore City Health Department in 21217 zip code. Their Office of Youth and Trauma Services, they have about 28 grantees in that community, and my company and we are providing technical assistance and capacity building support to them as well. So a lot of TA capacity building.
A lot. And you said something at the outset that I think is so super important when you mentioned, and we're both women business owners here, very similar stories in the working a full-time job while starting the business and then launching and taking the leap. I remember when you and I met for lunch, and you were making that step and making that decision, and you had put it on the calendar. I remember you said, this is the day that I'm going to move forward into this. I really like the point that you made about taking my show on the road, being able to have some location independence, still be productive, but have some sort of work-life harmony. And I hesitate to use the word balance because balance always assumes that all things are equal, and they aren't. You know, there are some days that you're going to have to give more to, you're going to be working on your business. Some days you're going to be working in the business. And then there are some days that you're just pulling all the way out and you have to focus more energy on, parenting and things around just your regular life. And, I wonder if you might want to share with the audience just about, how that has helped you prevent burnout in your own life. How crucial is this for you now? Because that's kind of where I am. After today's segment, I'm going to finish off some notes. I'm going to be done at 2. I'm off for the rest of the week. I build my schedule around the life I want to live and not around the work that I want to do, right? So, and it's so crucial. And I found the more I focus on that, like wellness and my own well-being and health, and just having some sort of harmony, the better I'm able to do in my business, both financially, and otherwise. So I'm wondering if you'd like to share that also. I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but.
No, it's okay. I like being on the spot. Actually, I'm not consistent. So sometimes I'm really good at managing my lifestyle, and then sometimes I'm not. And when I'm really good at it is when I'm journaling, and at night, or even just when I finish, I write down a list of things that I have to accomplish and what it is that I'm doing this week, or what it is that I'm doing the next day. And so that way, when I sleep, my mind is clear. Yes. And I can focus on sleeping. Yes. And I'll turn my phone off at a certain time just to kind of give myself some downtime and turn my brain off.
Yes.
And then even sometimes I'll listen to some type of meditation music. And then in the morning, what I do when I'm behaving myself, I'm not grabbing my phone first thing in the morning. If anything, I'm breathing and I'm repeating positive affirmations to myself. And one of the things that I do is I say 5 things that I'm grateful for. Yes. And then I'll even listen to some positive affirmations or try to do some type of physical activity. Just make it about me, like everyone else can wait, because what happens is once I get started, I'm so into it, I'm so deep, and I'm so focused on serving my clients that I'll forget to eat. I'll forget to take my vitamins, or I'm not drinking my tea how I want to. So I have to be really conscious about that. And even this trip, I'm in Las Vegas for 2 weeks now, and I'm supposed to be working very limited, but yesterday was a tired burnout day. And I think that's why I kind of started the show. Like I had to kind of get in my zone for, with today's conversation. But I am intentional about, like, I check myself. Yeah. I check myself, and so I quickly revert back to what I'm supposed to be doing. And for me, it's just being mindful, just being aware, and then reminding myself of who I am, and then also my value. So sometimes, and I actually had this conversation with someone yesterday. I hadn't heard from him in a while, and he's a part of a project that I'm working on for a client. And basically he was telling me that a few people at his organization left all at the same time, and he's taking on more responsibility. And I mean, it's nice to be a team player, but as far as how long you're taking on these additional responsibilities, it's like, okay, wait a minute. You have to value yourself, and you cannot let people exploit you. So so my thing is, either you step back, or if you welcome the role, then it's time to renegotiate. Exactly. It's time for you to have a meeting to explore and maybe take on a new opportunity or create an opportunity for yourself. That's right. For me, I think my biggest issue, it's not the work, it's just overworking and making sure that that I'm being valued. I know that I provide value, but I want to make sure that, for me, my biggest thing is to make sure that I'm respected and that I'm valued. And I have to and I have to create boundaries for myself.
Exactly. And that's something that my colleague, Valissa Pierre-Louis, and I talk about all the time. She's a member in our community, Fit and Functional for Life, which really just is about, it's a private community, and we talk about all aspects, all the 4 pillars of health and wellness, but just health from a more holistic perspective. How are we healthy in our careers? And that value discussion, that knowing what value you bring to the organization will truly, if you drive from your core values and be sure that your core values are aligned with the organizational core values, and that you're clear on where those boundaries are, that is the key to working smarter, not harder. And also creating support for yourself, because as we take on additional responsibilities, we need more support. And so having conversation about admin support, having conversation about, it's like I said, it's not about having days off, because you'll never have enough days off. You'll find yourself needing a vacation from your vacation. And so it's about building that foundational wellness. And I talk a lot about this in my own coaching. And I just want to applaud you for having what I call as a sandwich. You know, you have a routine at night and you have a routine in the morning. And that's what sandwiches your day. And none of us is perfect. I'm not even perfect. I'm a clinical provider. I'm the first person who should know better about being up at 2:00 in the morning, or, cheating on the diet, or if you want to call it cheating or whatever. But I think what's key is what you said, is that mindfulness. You know when you've got to reset. You know when you've got to, tighten up those 2 little sandwich pieces, one in the front, one in the back. Nighttime, clearing it off. Something as simple as having a list so you can do that thought download. Put all those thoughts on a piece of paper, in your journal, your planner, go to bed. You've done all you could do with the day, and then start the day off intentionally. So having a morning and evening routine is something that it sounds so simple, but it's one of the first steps in my coaching. Is I like to hear, what is your routine? Let's get a solid, because that's what you're going to use to rein yourself back in when you feel yourself slipping out of place. And so I just want to applaud you for that, because that is so super important, and having that why, like you said, your core values, that's your why. That's what's going to sustain all these efforts. It's not enough just to hear it from a coach or someone else, but having your own core values that drive this belief that your health truly is the first wealth.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angel, for joining me today. For those of you who are watching, Angel, she has a private clinical practice and a private coaching practice, and you can learn more about her at sevahealthgroup.com. That's sevahealthgroup.com. And as always, you can learn more about me at shawntajackson.com and my business at causeengagement.com. Angel, your last question is, how can you help me just stay connected? Let's stay connected. September 30th, I'm hosting my first in-person event. I'm taking Connections on the road, an event series. And the first one will be September 30th at Seasons 52 at Columbia Mall. And so I'll be sure to invite you to that. And yes, and I'll keep you posted, but definitely stay connected. And then that way we can connect you with other folks.
Absolutely.
And we had lost our connection earlier, but my mother is watching, and she says, "Good morning, great conversation and topic. You both are so beautiful. Have a blessed day." Thank you so much. And everyone, again, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you next Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shawnta.